It started with a knock so aggressive it rattled my windows. Not the friendly knock of a neighbor. Not his was the knock of a petty tyrant who believed her clipboard gave her the right to rule. I peeked through the side window and felt my stomach tighten. There she stood, Karen Delaney, our self-declared HOA president, flanked by two lackeys from the compliance committee, a retired dentist with a god complex, and a teenage boy she'd somehow recruited, probably with empty promises of community leadership credit. She had the nerve to smile. That smug, sharp little grin that always came right before she did something unhinged. "Mr. Dalton," she yelled, "you've got 30 minutes to remove that vehicle or it will be seized." She meant my 2022 Porsche 911 Turbo. My dream car. The one I worked my ass off for after coming back from 2 combat tours and launching a private security consultancy that finally, after years of scrapping, broke 7 figures. I'd parked it in my own damn driveway just last night. I opened the door. "Excuse me?" I asked, voice calm but tight, already filming on my phone. Karen shoved a stack of papers at me. As per HOA Resolution 42A, non-conforming luxury vehicles may be subject to removal if they do not comply with exterior appearance standards. "That's not a real thing," I said flatly. "It is now," she chirped. Her little followers were nodding behind her like bobbleheads. She scanned my yard, eyes flaring with satisfaction. "Your hedges are 3.5 inches too high. The mulch is non-uniform. And the sheen on your car's paint job has a glare that violates our brightness threshold." I blinked. Brightness threshold? She tapped her laminated bylaw book like she was quoting scripture. That would have been the end of it, just another absurd Karen Power trip, except when I left for a lunch meeting later that day, the Porsche was gone. Vanished. At first, I thought it had been stolen. My heart pounded in my chest as I checked every camera angle from my home surveillance system. That's when I saw it, Karen herself, climbing into the Porsche with a fake tow form, waving at the Ring camera like she was the damn Queen of England. She'd used a flatbed and some shady towing company that wasn't even registered with the city. I called the police, but it got worse. When the officer showed up, he looked grim. "Sir, this is different. We've had complaints about this HOA before. Seizure threats, coerced fines, but no one's had proof." I showed him the video. He exhaled slow. "That's felony theft." Then he leaned in. "But I want you to talk to someone else. Federal." I didn't even know what that meant until Agent Lila Grant showed up at my door the next morning. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and didn't waste a second. "I'm with the Bureau," she said. "We've been building a case against your HOA president." "Your car?" "That's the mistake we've been waiting for." Turns out, Karen wasn't just a neighborhood nuisance. She was part of a ring of fraudulent HOA heads across the region, using HOA codes as a front to seize property, then auction it to shell buyers. The Porsche? It had already been listed on a private auction site used by a network of community development boards. All fake. Agent Grant unrolled a map and showed me line string connecting names I'd never heard of. But at the center, like a bloated spider, was Karen Delaney. They'd tried to nab her twice before, but she was slippery. Always had someone else sign the paperwork. Always kept her hands clean. But not this time. "This time," Lila said with a grin, "we're going to use her ego against her." That's when the plan came together. I'd act furious. Publicly. Post to neighborhood groups. Demand restitution. Bait her. We'd make her think she got away with it and then offer her one final victory she couldn't resist. The FBI placed a tracker on the Porsche once they recovered it from a warehouse 2 towns over. They repainted it in a slightly different color, switched the plates, and brought it right back to my driveway. Karen took the bait. 2 days later, she returned with a new compliance seizure order, this time with even more ridiculous claims accusing me of harboring illegal reflective materials. My Ring camera got it all. But what she didn't know was that every inch of that car was wired for surveillance, and not just mine. Federal. She slid behind the wheel with a little hop and made that pathetic vroom sound like a child playing race car. Her lackeys cheered. She didn't even get 10 feet before a convoy of black SUVs rolled up and boxed her in. The look on her face? Priceless. They dragged her out of the Porsche, her fake badge still dangling around her neck. She screamed about neighborhood jurisdiction and civil codes, but no one cared. The cuffs clicked. The bobblehead dentist tried to run and was tackled into my lawn gnome. The whole neighborhood came outside. Phones out. Kids cheering. One of them held up a sign that read, "Let her drive off this time." But the moment that hit the deepest wasn't the arrest, it was when Lila pulled me aside and handed me a slim folder. "Read this," she said. "But not here." Later that night, I opened it. Inside were pages of documented complaints. Karen had targeted veterans, single mothers, immigrants. She'd filed dozens of false citations, forged board votes, even charged membership dues in neighborhoods that didn't legally have HOAs, and where she had quietly sold 4 other seized vehicles over the last year. This woman wasn't just a neighborhood dictator. She was a predator. And somehow, we had all let her grow unchecked because she wore a lanyard and used big words. That night, I stood on my porch and looked across the street. For the first time in months, it was quiet. No patrols. No HOA memos on doors. Just neighbors talking, laughing, kids tossing basketballs in the fading sunset. We were free. I wasn't about to let Karen's destruction end with a few headlines and a booking photo. Not after what she did to my neighbors. Not after the folder revealed how deep her rot had spread. So I made some calls. Reached out to the HOA members she'd silenced. People who had stories, but no evidence. Until now. The Thompsons 2 streets over, she tried to evict them for painting their fence a rebellious shade of beige. The Tran family, Karen fined them $1,200 for unauthorized lanterns during Lunar New Year. Ms. Becca, a widow in her 70s, Karen threatened her with foreclosure because her rose bushes lacked uniformity. And every time, Karen used the same tactics. Overwhelm, confuse, intimidate. Wrap it all in fake documents that looked just real enough to pass under the radar. Until she stole the wrong Porsche. I organized a neighborhood forum at the local rec center. No chairs left. People stood in the back, along the walls, down the hall. I showed the videos. The arrest. The proof of forgery. The secret HOA accounts that Agent Lila's team had frozen, accounts that had collected over $400,000 in compliance penalties. The crowd sat in stunned silence. Then Becca stood up, voice shaking, and said, "I thought I was going crazy." Another neighbor said, "I almost sold my house to escape her." That was the moment the shame began to shift. No longer did people feel afraid to speak. They were angry, energized, ready. Within a week, we'd formed a legal action group. With the FBI's help, we filed a class action lawsuit against the now-dissolved HOA and Karen personally. The news ran with it. Neighborhood tyrant faces racketeering charges after stolen Porsche sting. National outlets picked it up. Memes exploded. One had her face pasted over the Monopoly man holding a forged citation. But Karen wasn't done humiliating herself. At her hearing, she requested to represent herself. Claimed she understood community law better than anyone in the state. The judge raised an eyebrow. Let her speak. And for 20 unhinged minutes, Karen read aloud from a binder titled "My Authority, My America." She claimed the HOA charter gave her implied executive rights. She compared herself to George Washington. She said the FBI were domestic enemies of neighborhood sovereignty. The courtroom was stunned. Then it broke into muffled laughter. Even the judge had to clear his throat to stay composed. When Karen tried to introduce a self-written constitutional amendment, the judge finally had enough. "Ms. Delaney," he said firmly, "you are not a sovereign citizen, and this is not a monarchy. You are under indictment for federal fraud and vehicle theft. Please sit down." She did. Slowly. Red-faced. Defeated. The sentence came swiftly. 6 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release. The court ordered restitution to every homeowner she'd defrauded, along with the seizure of her assets. Her house, ironically, was auctioned off legally. This to fund community repairs. But the real transformation came afterward. With the HOA disbanded and the fraud exposed, we worked together to rebuild. We launched a new community council, volunteer-based, open vote, and fully transparent. No fines. No secret meetings. No laminated nonsense. Just neighbors helping neighbors. The first thing we did? Host a block party. Not a bland, rule-policed potluck, but a real celebration. Fire pits. Loud music. Kids running wild. Becca danced with a glow stick. Mr. Tran brought homemade banh mi. Someone parked an ice cream truck right on the lawn where Karen once fined a guy for improper snow cone residue. And the Porsche? I donated it. Not out of guilt, but purpose. With Agent Lila's help, We raffled it off at a fundraiser for HOA reform awareness. The funds went into a new national platform called Free Our Streets, a nonprofit advocating for checks and balances in private associations. But here's the twist no one saw coming. 3 months after Karen's conviction, I got a letter. Not a court letter. Not media. Personal. Handwritten. From prison. It was from her. Mr. Dalton. It read, I'm not asking for sympathy. But I do want to explain. I didn't start out this way. After my divorce, I lost control over everything my house, my identity, my future. So I found power where I could. The HOA was the only thing that listened to me. Then, it became everything. I stopped seeing neighbors as people. I saw them as threats. Because if I wasn't in control, I was nothing. There were no excuses. Just that single page. A broken confession. The kind of thing that doesn't change the past but maybe makes the future less bitter. I didn't write back. But I read it twice. Because the truth is, Karen wasn't born a villain. She became one. Because no one stopped her when it mattered. Because the people who should have said no, stayed quiet. Because systems allowed it. Until someone said enough. Until one stolen car became the thread that unraveled a whole illusion of control. Until neighbors stopped whispering and started watching. So now, I drive a modest truck. Nothing flashy. But I leave it in my driveway, wide open, without fear. And every time I hear the wind rustle through the trees or hear laughter from a backyard barbecue, I remember what it cost to reclaim peace. A car. A court. A community. And the courage to confront the queen of fake authority and finally say, no more. Do you think HOA power should be limited by law? Or do people like Karen just twist what's already fair? Let us know your thoughts.